Romaine Bostick alongside Alix Steel, taking you to the closing bell. A global simulcast. It starts right now. We're joined right now in the radio booth by Katie Greifield and Matt Miller, filling in today for Carol Master and Tim Stenovic, and Scarlet Fu, as always, joining us here in the television studio as we welcome our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, including, guys, that relationship that we have with YouTube. Katie Greifield.
It is so great to see you, Romaine Bostick, especially as we are just moments away from the 45th record close on the S&P 500. Can you believe it? Here we are, of course, being buoyed higher by the big banks today.
Yeah, just powered higher, and we saw that kind of a slow start this morning at the open. I don't know if you're aware, Katie and I also anchor Bloomberg Open Interest, which takes you through the most important hour of the market, the open. And we saw the banks start to gain a little bit and then gain some momentum and really power higher until JP Morgan was up 5% and change. We saw Wells Fargo, even with maybe a little bit of disappointment in its earnings release, up more than 6%. The financials, the biggest gainer in terms of industry groups.
Yeah, if you look at the KBW Bank Index, 23 out of 24 names are higher. And what we saw from some of the banks may kind of set the tone for earnings season, which is analysts have been ratcheting down their estimates for third quarter results, while management looked a little bit more optimistic. So that creates a lower bar to beat. And we all know that that typically is what happens, but it gives us some momentum going into this earnings season.
What I was really into is Fastenal. Romaine, you and I were talking about that earlier. That did really well. That's industrial, real economy stock.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at the commentary we got out of the banks. That was real economy talk here, and that provides a little bit of a boost to sentiment here on this Friday afternoon, where we take a look at an S&P 500 off the highs of the day, but above that 5,800 level, 58.14 and change as we wait for these numbers to settle. That's going to be good enough for a 0.6% gain on the day. And yes, another record high. The NASDAQ composite also higher on the day by about 61 points at 0.3%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is now Alix Steel's favorite index, or average, I should say, up about 1% here on the day. But take a look at the Russell here, because it really has gotten left behind in this broad-based rally that we've had going back over the last couple of years. But it is playing catch-up. An outperformance on the day, up about 2% here, as it now logs a weekly gain, and came into today looking like it was going to have a weekly loss.
All right, meanwhile, you take a look under the hood. I know we're all about the big banks today, but big breadth in this market. In the S&P 500, 434 stocks closing in the green, just 68 stocks in the red. And Scarlet, according to the Bloomberg terminal, there was exactly one that was exactly unchanged.
Exactly one. Well, we'll see if that remains the case as the market settles. But in terms of how things are shaping up with sector performances, there are actually a lot more gainers than decliners. 9 out of the 11 groups are in the green. But the reason why it looks so lopsided is because tech, which is the biggest sector in the S&P 500, is basically finishing unchanged. Consumer discretionary down 0.4%, and that's mainly because of Tesla. Among your gainers, we've been talking about the financials, up almost 2%. Industrials gaining 1.8%. That gets back to Fastenal, which Alix was just talking about, and real estate investment trusts gaining more than 1% as well.
All right, let's get to some gainers right now. I had plenty to pick from, so we'll start with Uber, of course. We were talking about what a bad day Tesla's been having, of course. Its robo-taxi event, the RoboCab, didn't exactly go over too well. Scant details. That's all good news for Uber, at least according to this market. Uber shares finishing the day almost 11% higher. And then Fastenal, really interesting one. Like Alix said, a real economy stock here. It's a distributor of industrial and construction supplies. It provided a third quarter reading that showed sequential improvement in daily sales. People clearly psyched. You can see Fastenal having a great day today. And then I had to finish with the financials here. I picked JP Morgan, because it's the big one. Having a great day. Of course, it beat on investment banking fees. Ooh. It beat on net interest income, et cetera. It had a great day. And exciting. You saw it throughout the whole sector.
It's not exciting as fasteners, though.
No, I agree with you.
I agree. Thank you.
We're all in alignment here.
Well, I mean, it depends how you look at it.
Go on.
It was just 1 month and 1 day ago that Daniel Pinto came out and said JP Morgan was going to miss on net interest income, and the stock tanked. It had its biggest drop in 4 years. Oh. And now that feels like it was a setup for today.
Wow.
Well, they did also say that 2025 estimates are a little bit too high, and that JP Morgan is not going to make the full year 2025 numbers as they currently stand.
2025 is like 15 years from now. Who cares?
You're certainly not seeing anyone thinking about that today.
No, it's a long way away. I'm looking at the losers in today's market. Obviously, Tesla was a huge one after the big disappointment that was yesterday. Elon Musk announcing their self-driving taxi at an event that was very flashy and at a movie studio, Warner Brothers, I believe, but was light on specifics. Didn't tell anybody about technical details, glossed over topics including regulation, because that's important. You can only actually make and sell 2,500 vehicles without a steering wheel, and that doesn't seem like enough to make money. He didn't say who's going to own and operate the fleet of cyber taxis, so it left, I think, more questions than answers. Stellantis was also a big loser today.
Wait, are you doing two-car companies?
Yeah. He's doing another stock.
Probably doing three, right? I haven't looked that far ahead.
I mean, you could argue, I think Tesla investors would argue that that's a technology company and not just a metal bender.
No.
But
They're a consumer
Stellantis
discretionary company.
isn't doing well bending metal either. They have slumping sales in North America.
Materials company.
They delayed a new model introduction in Europe. They have quality issues, the threat of strikes. You know, globally, car sales is coming under pressure right now. And Carlos Tavares, you know, there was talk about whether one of the big owners, Johnny Elkann, would get rid of him before he retires in 2026. That didn't happen, but Tavares threw the female CFO under the bus. She's only been there for less than a year, and now she's out. I also have AOS. Have you ever heard of AOS?
Yeah, is that the water pump company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Water heating and water treatment equipment. I hadn't heard of it, but it is a member of the S&P 500. One of that index's 503 stocks, down after lowering its annual forecast for net sales and adjusted earnings per share, citing continued softness in its China business. I'm here to say that if you pay attention tomorrow, this could be a big gainer on Monday, because the finance ministry is going to lay out how much it's going to give in stimulus. We're hoping for 2 trillion won, I think. That's the consensus. Also, TLN fell, and a bunch of other power companies, including Vistra, Alix, and Constellation. TLN is Talon Energy. This after regional grid operator PJM said it supports a delay to an electric capacity auction by 6 months. You probably know more about this than anybody else, but I just think it's interesting to watch these guys fall. A couple days ago, we thought they were dropping because of Google.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so they've also had a really big run too, right? So if you're going to sort of right size a portfolio, or you're going to sell some of the winners, like some of these guys are the best performing stocks in the S&P so far this year. Okay, I'm going to the bond market here. You were looking at higher yields in the back end, lower yields in the front end. So it feels like everyone thinks the steepener is definitely happening, but how we get to the steepener, is it going to be a bear or a bull steepener? Is it because that front end comes down or the back end goes up? We've seen the latter over the last couple days, and kind of what that means for the market will be quite interesting going into next week.
All right, something to keep an eye on there, but it's a Friday afternoon. Let's talk about breakdancing. And just to bring the viewers into the TikTok here, I know that you guys wanted to talk about this. So breakdancing, we all learned a lot about it because of the Olympics and, of course, whatever that.
Except they didn't call it breakdancing.
Oh, yeah, it was just break.
Yep.
But anyway, we learned a lot about it thanks to Australia. Apparently, doctors are warning about a breakdance bulge that dancers can develop. It's on the top of their head. It's when they get on the top of their head.
It's called a head spin, Katie.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch breakdancing.
Of course you don't know. I don't know how any. Look, this story came out because of a 30-year-old who I think is Danish. He got breakdancing bulge. He got a big protrusion on the top of his head, and doctors thought, is it cancer? What's going on? They did like an MRI.
He was just breaking too hard.
He was breaking.
He was practicing too much.
How does a 30-year-old, like breakdancing is for guys like me and Romaine.
They said
it's for 50 or 60-year-olds.
No. First of all, they said he started like when he was like, a preteen, and he was like practicing like 5 hours a day. So I guess, look, if you're spinning on your head 5 hours a day, every day for like 15 years, I think something would happen to the top of your skull.
I'm going to try it,
right?
You know?
You're going to try it.
I mean, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but I would think
But
something
if you played one
happen.
on TV, that's what you would think.
So does he go bald too, or he just gets the bulge, but it has hair on top?
It's a great question.
It's a growth of skin, so I think it's just a bulge. All right, quick question, you guys. I know it's been all over social media, but did any of you capture Northern Lights last night? Yesterday?
No, I'm so bummed.
Look at that. You know what, though? Sometimes the pictures come out better.
You're talking about actual Northern Lights.
Yes, indeed. That's what
We're being very earnest here. We're talking about Northern Lights in the sky, the show. No?
Amazing.
No
so,
one?
okay, no, I didn't see it. It's supposed to happen tonight, but it's moving farther north. So you have to be in like northern New York. It's really not going to hit New York City. I cannot. This is like on my bucket list in a big, big way, and I'm so bummed.
Yeah, well, it looks beautiful, and at least we have the photos.
I feel like we've been getting more Northern Lights instances in the last couple of years than before.
Isn't it?
That's true.
Yeah, you can see them up by us. You can come over to my house tonight.
All right,
that's far.
I'll do that anyway.
I have a Pilates class. But listen, we have to go, guys. That does it for our cross-platform coverage of the market close.